as the religion of the Jews. Is that how you've seen this story? And so, not only are they going down idolatry, but now we're going to have this supreme idol, and it's my wife's dad as the high priest of that. One other thing I want you to notice about Baal, her daddy, he's not only the priest of Baal, but he's a king of Sidon. So remember that for our story. Our story and the lessons we want to get are found in chapter 17. I'm not going to read all the story. I'll read the first part here in just a minute. But who the story is about is Elijah. Now Elijah, this is the first time you read about Elijah in the Bible, and his story is told in the next 8 chapters. Chapter 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and then 2 Kings chapter 1 and 2 Kings chapter 2. So there's 8 chapters about the life of Elijah. And you know, Elijah was, and he's told in chapter 17, the last verse, he's a man of God. He's the man of God. He is a great prophet of God, and God uses Elijah to deal with the wicked king Ahab. And over the next several chapters you see that. And we're going to stay right in chapter 17. But God used this prophet Elijah to deal with the wicked king Ahab. Now what I want you to know, and we're not going to go into it today, but you read this later. The 8 chapters, the 8, is that right? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Those 8 chapters, 9 times, now you look for it on your own this week, maybe even this afternoon. 9 times God is going to tell Elijah to do something, and 9 times Elijah does what God tells him to do. And that's the first lesson. And the major lesson I want us to remember today that will really help us be like Elijah. Be somebody who obeys whatever God tells you to do. Now, we live under a different covenant. We're not under the first covenant, the old covenant, the 10 commandments. That's not part of our system. We're under the system of Christ, the system of Christianity, the law of the faith. All right? But there are commandments to keep under the new covenant. And Elijah, as somebody who always did what God told him to do, even though sometimes, brethren, he dragged his feet a little bit, he was a little bit slow sometimes, but he always did it. I want us to encourage all of us, be like Elijah. Be somebody who always obeys what God tells you to do under the new covenant. Now, in Nigeria, brethren over there sing a song. Everybody in the brotherhood over there knows it. By the way, there's more than 400,000 members of the Church of Christ in Nigeria. It's got the third most members of the church in the world. India has more, U.S. is second, and we're third. Or Nigeria is third. But over there, in all the congregations, sometimes they will sing a song called "Prayer is the Key." I'm watching the clock. I've got 10 minutes. Prayer is the key, prayer is the key, prayer is the master's key. Jesus started with prayer and ended with prayer. Prayer is the master's key. And I used to sing them over the years, and I thought, oh, what a great song those are. You know what? I've learned better. Prayer is not the key. The key in Christianity is obedience. Hebrews 5, 8, and 9, Matthew 7, 21, 23, and I'll just hit those real quick. But so many other passages. Though Jesus was the Son, yet learned the obedience to the things that you suffered. And being made perfect, he became the source or the author of eternal salvation to all who pray to him, who obey him. And Matthew 7:21. Not everyone that says to me, Lord, Lord, that's prayer, isn't it? Not everybody prays. But he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven, that's the one who's going to go to heaven. So you know those passages and so many others. Brethren, let's be like Elijah. What we're going to do today is see 2 times God speaks to Elijah, tells him something to do, and both times Elijah does it, whether he understands it or not. And there's another part of that lesson of obedience that we need to practice. Just because I may not understand why, doesn't mean I don't go ahead and do it. Maybe I'll figure out the why in 20 or 30 years. Maybe not. Obey. That's the key. Now, when you look at Elijah, verse 1 of chapter 17, and I'm going to read about, right now I'll read 4 or 5 verses, in a little bit I'll read 4 or 5 more. Then I'm not going to read the rest of the story. But this first verse, you see Elijah deal with Ahab, but this is not one of the 9 times I'm talking about where God says, hey, Elijah, go do this or that. Now, I believe God told Elijah to do what he did in verse 1, but this is not one of the 9 times I'm talking about. Look at verse 1. Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the settlers of Gilead, said to Ahab, "As the Lord the God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, surely there will be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word." Brethren, what kind of guy was Elijah? I picture Elijah as a tough guy. Jesus makes it clear in Matthew chapter 11 and Matthew chapter 17 that, and the parallels in the Gospels, that Elijah was the forerunner of John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was cut like Elijah. That Elijah who was to come in Malachi chapter 4, Jesus makes it clear. That is a reference to John the Baptist in Matthew 11 and Matthew 17. So, what kind of guy was John the Baptist? He was a tough guy. He ate tough, and he dressed tough, and he preached tough, and he wasn't afraid of anybody. And he told it like it was. Lost his head. Elijah, in my mind, was the same kind of a character. And I picture verse 1 where Elijah is saying to this wicked King Ahab, buttonholing him. And Patrick, please forgive me, but I think he's trying to put his finger on his chest and say, "Hey, here's how this is going to be. It's going to be a terrible drought. It's going to cause a famine. And it's not going to stop until God speaks through me. And then, hey, it's going to rain." And we know the story over in James chapter 5. You know, it didn't rain for 3 years and 6 months. And then it did rain. And the fervent prayer of a righteous man works much. And so forth. We know that story, right? So, but that's not one of the verses. This is not one of the times I'm talking about. Here's the first time God says to Elijah, as I look at the times when God speaks to Elijah and tells him to do something, Elijah does it. Look at verses 2 to 5 quickly. The word of the Lord came to him saying, the word of the Lord came to Elijah saying, "Go away from here, and turn eastward, hide yourself by the brook Kerith, which is east of the Jordan. It shall be that you shall drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to provide for you there." And so, verse 5, here it is, he went and did. I'm reading out of the New American Standard Version. How does your Bible say? Mine says, he went and did. God told him, he went and he did it. Verse 5. He did according to the word of the Lord. He went and lived by the brook Kerith, which is east of the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, bread and meat in the evening, and he would drink from the brook. Now, before I read verse 7 here in a minute, picture in your map. Here's your map lesson for today. I've got about 5 minutes left. You got the land of Canaan. You got the Sea of Galilee up here. You got the Dead Sea down here. You got the Jordan River splitting them. And on the east side, about halfway down, there's the brook Kerith. So what God tells Elijah to do is, verse 3, go hide yourself. Now you don't read Elijah saying, "Why would me hide? I've been dealing with King Ahab. I've already buttonholed him. I told him how to calibrate the cabbage. I don't need to be hiding from that guy. I'm not afraid." No, that's go hide. So, young people, Elijah went and did. It's over here, and he's hiding. Elijah always obeyed God. Now, here's the second lesson for today. Very quickly. God will take care of you. Look at it in the life of Elijah. Here's Elijah. Elijah, we're going to have drought. We're going to have famine. I'm going to take care of you. You go back to work carefully. You're going to have water to drink. I'm going to send the ravens to come down and bring bread and meat to you in the morning and the evening, or however all this goes. Elijah believes him. He goes and does it, and God's going to take care of him. What kind of birds are ravens? Leviticus chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. Ravens are unclean birds. Elijah is a man of God. He's a kosher Jew. God's going to take care of him. Here comes these unclean, ceremoniously unclean birds bringing with their claws, their beaks, food and bread every morning. Can you imagine Elijah reacting to that? Here comes the ravens again. I know I'm hungry, but these unclean birds, they're bringing them. Put it right there. I just wonder if there wasn't a little of that going on in Elijah's heart. And then what happens? Verse 7, it happened after a while that the brook dried up because there was no rain in the land. Uh-oh. I'm over here hiding. God will take care of me. And he's speaking with unclean birds, and now I don't have any water to drink. How long can you live without water? 3, 4 days. We've got 3 doctors at Westside and Norman, and I've asked them, 3, 4 days? That's how long you're going to live without water. I don't have any water. You're feeding with unclean birds. God will take care of you. Verse 8. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, saying, Arise, verse 9, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon. Stay there, behold, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So, verse 10, he arose and went. This is number 2, obedient to a command from God. Out of the 9 times that I see in these 8 chapters of Elijah's life, where God commands and Elijah obeys. He arose and he went. Now, what's the command? All right, Elijah, no water over there, feeding with unclean birds. Okay. I want you now to go to where? Zarephath. Where's Zarephath? Sidon. Who's the king of Sidon? Jezebel's dad. I want you to go into enemy territory, and I'm going to take care of you, a widow. Widow? A pagan widow in Zarephath, outside of the land of Canaan, outside of the land of Palestine? What do you mean? Do you all know widows in this country? Sometimes widows have wherewithal. You go to any place around this world, you find widows there, you got nothing. They haven't got anything. And you're going to see this widow, and my time is almost up. This widow didn't have anything either. But he didn't say, what are you talking about, God? We don't see any of that. He just arose and he went. And so he's got to go more than 110 kilometers as the crow flies from the Brook Karen to Zarephath in the north. And those roads didn't go as the crow flies. You got to go 110 kilometers to get there. And when you get there to Zarephath, verse 10, he came to the gate of the city. Behold, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called her and said, Please get me a little water in a jar that I may drink. And she was going to get it. I'm thirsty. I haven't had water. I need water. And she's going to go get it. And you know what happened was, as she turned to go get the water, because there's water in wells in that area, he calls to her in verse 10, says, at verse 11, Please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. And that's when she reacts. She says, You need a little water? Okay. She goes, You want something to eat? And then she goes off on him. And she lets him know, I don't have anything. And what she says is, As the Lord your God lives, I have no bread. In verse 12, only a handful of flour in the bowl, and a little oil in a jar. Behold, I'm gathering a few sticks that I may go in and prepare for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. I got a little bit of meal. I got a little bit of oil. I'm going to mix them together and make these bread cakes for my boy and I. I'm going to go over here and gather some sticks. I'm going to start a fire. I'm going to cook this little bread cake that I made. I'm going to feed one of my son. I'm going to eat one myself. And then I'm going to lay over it and we're going to die. That's how close to the end of what we have. And you want something to eat for me? And Elijah says, Verse 13, don't fear. Don't do as I said. Make me a little bread cake from it first. Bring it out to me, and afterward you may make one for yourself and your son. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, the bowl of flour shall not be exhausted, nor shall the jar of oil be empty until the day of the Lord, until the day that the Lord sends rain on the face of the earth. Look at her attitude, verse 15. She went and did. You see, going and doing, verse 5, verse 10, and verse 15. She went and did. Just like Elijah going. Whenever God told him to do something, she went and did, according to the word of Elijah, and she and her household ate for many days. The bowl of flour was not exhausted, nor did the jar of oil become empty, according to the word of the Lord which he spoke through Elijah. My time is gone, but here's the third lesson. God was taking care of him, not in the way that maybe he was accustomed to, or maybe how he thought he ought to be taken care of. But God will take care of us. And we know the New Testament verses that teach that, don't we? And do we believe it? Cast all your cares and anxieties on him because he cares for you. All right? But boy, we can get frustrated when we think, I deserve being taken care of better than this. But look how he took care of the man of God. Elijah. It's rough go for him. All right, God will take care of you. And then what happens the rest of the story? And here's the third lesson coming up. In the rest of the story, the lady's son gets sick. And she gets so sick that he dies. Now you find out as you read the rest of the story, Elijah's living in the same house. He's living upstairs. She calls for Elijah and complains. Why wouldn't she? And she says, what are you doing here? Are you here because God is punishing me for my previous sins? And isn't that the way how people think? When things don't go just like they think they ought to go, they'll turn on God in a heartbeat. Somebody gets baptized today, Jerry. There's a couple over here. We're so happy they obeyed the gospel 4 months ago. In 2